And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Lily Nova, UFO and space photographer, ET contactee, CE5 practitioner, cosmic channel, best-selling author, and public speaker. Her story and UFO footage have been featured in mainstream media all over the world, including the LAD Bible, The Mirror, and on the Travel Channel. Lily, welcome back. It's great to have you again.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Exciting times we are living in, so it's nice to catch up again with you.
Yeah, it's so true. That is so true. Well, the first time I had you on was probably 2 or 3 years ago, and so there may be some people that are new to your story. So for those people and for people who need a recap, can you tell them how you got contacted by ETs?
Yeah, so I think we covered my, beginning experiences in like 2021 around that time because I had an article that went viral.
Yeah.
But so in 2020, I began being contacted. I was out shooting space photography, and we're in the middle of lockdown, so everything was closed, and that's what I turned to doing. And I was spending every single night out under the stars with my camera. And then I started being contacted by UFOs. I had my very first encounter, very, very close encounter right outside of my house. A ship came very, very close to me, went up, down, side to side, went right above my head and disappeared. And after that, a series of very rapid, very close contact experiences happened where I had about 14 close encounters with UFOs over the period of 2 weeks. And I just started documenting them with my camera. I'm like, what is happening right now? And the world's going crazy. It's 2020. And I realized that this was something very, very serious when I heard there was kind of this hidden piece in the COVID bill about they were requesting that all information about UFOs be sent over to the government. And that's when I knew this is serious. There are beings from another world contacting me, and they're here. I began finding others who are having these experiences. But a telepathic communication developed with these beings. I got to learn about who they are, our connection with them. And really the beginning of my journey was documenting proof of it. And now it's evolved. They activated psychic abilities within me, and yeah, so a lot's happened since then, but that was basically the beginning. So I shared a lot of footage of these craft and things like that during our first interview.
Yeah, I remember you showing footage of being at a park.
Yeah. I used to go to this astronomy park. I was obsessed with the night sky. Like, I just fell in love with it. So I used to go to this astronomy park, and I'd be out all night, like by myself, and then I'd be kind of like searching for UFOs, like, are they going to show up? And they would show up. And then a relationship developed where I intentionally began making contact with them, and they would show up. And we kind of developed a daily routine where I would go out and make contact with them at different parks and things like that.
Do you think that you initiated this contact at that time, or you made an agreement pre-birth?
I feel it was, I started learning about this afterwards and came to realize, because I'm like, why me? What's the deal here? I came to find that these beings were my star family, at least the original ones that contacted me. And it was a predetermined time when I would come online, if you will. I was almost like kind of like a sleeper cell starseed where I'm on a mission and I've been kind of dormant until this predetermined time in 2020 when a lot of people began having experiences and began going through an awakening. Yeah, I feel that's what happened. It was like a predetermined kind of contract to wake up and begin remembering at that time. But I feel that I thought that was my first experiences. And looking back on it, I know that they've been watching over me for all of my life, not just since 2020.
How do you know that?
Well, my first clue was my mom had this. I actually don't remember it, but I've tuned into it before since then to kind of psychically remote view the situation. But there was kind of a weird thing that happened where my mom found me. I was probably like 3 or 4 years old. In the middle of the night, she woke up and I was out of my bed. I was in the kitchen. The lights were dim and I was just in my pajamas and I was looking at the wall and I pointed to the wall and I looked up at her and I said, "They went right through the wall." And it kind of creeped her out, and I thought maybe it was a ghost or something, and then I realized that, I was actually being visited by extraterrestrials. And you hear a lot how they have this technology where they can go through walls, or it appears like they're going through a wall. But I psychically tuned into it after that, and I do believe it was extraterrestrials, and they were just kind of checking in on me, and they would do that. My mother's also had UFO experiences. So what I found is it's run in the family.
Are you still communicating with them today?
Yeah, I have a regular communication with them, and it's really evolved. I have a few different groups that stay in contact with, and I can dive into that if you would like. But yeah, basically almost daily, but every few days they'll give me, some updates and, some strong messages, but they're also giving me, internal guidance pretty frequently.
Who are the groups and how do you communicate with them?
So the first beings that contacted me were Andromedan Council. They are often depicted with light blue skin and no hair. And she had a silver skin tight suit on. These beings are from the Andromedan constellation and Andromedan Council. Other people are in contact with this group. Alex Collier is a big name who's been in contact with them. So the Andromedan Council, the Federation, different Pleiadian beings, and more recently the Earth Alliance, which some of my Andromedan Talia specific being I communicate with is part of that. And that is a group of there's actually like positive military and humans and galactics involved in this group that are working together, focused on Earth and the ascension of the planet, basically the awakening of the planet. So Nordic type beings, the Andromedan type beings. I also see Arcturian beings and then inner Earth beings to kind of summarize it.
And how do you communicate with them?
Sometimes I'll see their ships, but often it's through telepathy, and I'll just get kind of like a ping or what some people refer to as downloads also, where, sometimes I'll hear a voice or I'll just get a feeling, and then it comes with all of this information that I'm kind of like downloaded with or that I get a sense of. So it's telepathy. It doesn't always come in words. Sometimes it's just a whole understanding, if that makes sense. And then since seeing these beings and since developing a strong meditation practice, I've activated psychic abilities, clairvoyance specifically, where I'll see them. So sometimes I'll see visions of them, or I can see into like the fifth dimension or into other dimensions where I can see them standing right here in front of me, for example. It's pretty wild. It's pretty incredible. Or I'll see like their ships in the sky. So basically with my third eye. Sorry, that was a long answer, but that's
Long answers are fine. Have they ever revealed to you when first contact will happen on a planetary scale?
Yeah. So originally, the Andromedans who I was first contacted with, I asked Talia, who I mentioned her name before, one of my main Andromedan contacts. She told me years ago, she said I asked, when will you be boots on the ground with us openly? And she said 2030s. And this was a few years back. Now that is, I believe, openly they're on the ground mingling with us, which is coming very, very close. But more recent, the messages on first contact have been, I think over the next few years, we're going to see really big movement in that. And a specific star system that they've shared with me is Alpha Centauri. And Alpha Centauri is a very close star system to us. Interestingly enough, it's depicted in a lot of films and shows as being, I can't remember the name of one of the shows, but basically people leave Earth to go to Alpha Centauri because that's one of the closest habitable planets. So you see it in films and shows. It's been mentioned multiple times. So I feel like that's kind of like a pre-programming or a disclosure. But I think they're going to be one of the races that maybe we find life on that planet, and then they roll out disclosure that way. And they're one of the first beings to maybe make contact with us. I think it has to be a race that looks more similar to us too, so that people aren't so afraid. To kind of ease into it.
I'm not sure if you've ever seen this movie. It's pretty old, and I'm really dating myself. But there was a movie back in the 80s called The Last Starfighter, based on a video game, and it was a sci-fi video game. And if you were amazing at the game, then the ETs would come and contact you.
Oh,
and
fun.
I'm pretty sure that the ET was from Alpha Centauri.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, it's interesting how it really parallels. There's a lot of disclosure in some of these films, or they're getting the inspiration from somewhere that could have been a download, that somebody had and they put it in a show or a movie. But yeah, that's awesome.
Well, what will full disclosure, boots on the ground look like?
That's a great question. I think eventually we're heading towards what would look like Star Trek.
Cool.
There's a lot of disclosure in Star Trek with that. We have to. This year is the year of unveiling, I feel. So before we can have open contact with the extraterrestrials, we need some skeletons to come out of the closet here on Earth, because there's been a lot of very, very corrupt things going on, and there are certain corporations and entities that do not want us to have open contact, because then that means free energy technology. Us being able to focus more on tapping into our full potential and the potential of our planet. Harmony, bliss, joy, abundance are things where we'll be heading into over the next few years. And I believe 2025 was a big year that marked that. But all of this kind of dark, nefarious things and the corruption that's been suppressing all of that information has to be kind of shaken up and brought out. It has to be exposed. So that has to happen first. And I think we're watching that play out in real time, and it can be a bit messy. But I have really good positive feelings and thoughts and psychic insights about what's to come. It's just going to be kind of a little bit messy at first, and then we'll be able to have just a kind of a beautiful sanctuary and paradise on Earth, and live in peace and harmony, and be able to move into more of our full potential and join the galactic communities in a Star Trek-like future.
I'm assuming the initial beings will be Nordics and ones that are more humanoid looking.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Alpha Centauri, they're a bit more humanoid looking. Assuming the Pleiadians, they're very, very active with contactees on Earth, and they look very similar to us already. So yeah, I would see that. That's how I see it happening for sure. And then maybe we'll get introduced to, as we go down, ones that look a little bit more different to us as we get used to that.
Do you believe in time travel? And if so, do you think any of these beings are us from the future?
Time travel has been coming on my radar a lot. And the Andromedans that first contacted me, actually, Andromedan Council is known for being a group of beings who used a sort of a timeline technology to foresee what would happen in our galaxy if we were to continue going down a certain path. So then those beings, they went back in time to help prevent that, and Earth is a big part of that. if that makes sense. So to help correct and help guide humanity into a more positive trajectory. So yes, I believe a lot of these beings are versions of us from the future and other timelines. And then the time travel technology gets interesting because you also have, I think, positive and negative factions here on Earth who have been using this sort of technology, like the Philadelphia experiment, if you've heard of that. I believe experiments have been going on with trying to mess with things like that with CERN, opening up portals, messing with time, and the Mandela effects. So I believe there's kind of been like a back and forth with time travel going on. But to summarize that, yes, I believe time travel is a big part of it. And a lot of these beings are us, actually us from the future, coming back to help put us on a positive trajectory and guide us.
I think many people would say that the grays are us from the future.
That could be a potential. There's many different species and subspecies of grays, and I definitely I think that they could be us from a specific timeline. That's definitely a possibility. And they may, because their kind of story or agenda is, from my understanding, I don't have much of a communication or expertise with the Greys specifically, but they seem to have the kind of the consensus with that is they evolved to a point where they couldn't reproduce properly or something was hindering their growth and their expansion. So they came back to hybridize, came back in time to hybridize with us is kind of like a common theme that's seen out there to help save their race. So there's definitely a possibility, I think.
I noticed on Facebook that there are pictures of you in Egypt. What do you think these sacred sites have to do with all this contact?
So this has been really, really fascinating for me. I recently went to Egypt, and your audience may have heard about the structures below the Great Pyramid that blew up. Like now it's all the buzz. Egypt has been all the buzz. And I actually got to Egypt like the day that information came out. So it was really interesting being like there in person to kind of see and be able to tap in on these locations. So there's a lot. Egypt is a police state, and it's very, very tightly. I'll say the narrative there, at least in person, is very tightly, like they don't want outside thinking, at least from what I've seen. Not saying that about everybody. So that's interesting. They seem to have like a very tight control over it. And I think there's a big reason for that. So these sites, very, very high energy sites, and they're like the nodal points or the chakra system of the earth. And from my understanding and what I've been seeing through messages from the Alliance, the Galactics, and then just meditation, these sites, some of these sites were kind of blown up or destroyed or turned off during the fall of Atlantis. And we had basically a huge reset that knocked us back. And we kind of had to start over as a civilization. And so now we're starting to remember who we are. Aspects of these different sites are coming to light, like, large structures and underground cities. The pyramids being essentially like a power plant. It could be free energy for the planet, which would help us become an advanced civilization again, being able to have that free energy. So I think that's what we're moving into. Remembering who we are, remembering our past, and then also turning these sites back online so that we can evolve as a species and go into kind of like this golden age.
Well, you recently moved to Sedona. What have you seen out there?
Sedona's been fun. Sedona is basically like it's a very, very sacred space. It's known for having energetic vortexes, a few there's just like 7 main ones, but really you can find interesting things and feel interesting things all throughout that area. a lot of UFO activity, a lot of inner earth beings. I've seen a lot of inner earth beings and kind of like portals and like portal systems there. So it's just a very ripe environment where the veil is very, very thin to be able to see UFOs, see crafts, see beings, and have supernatural experiences, even healing experiences. Like the energy can kind of be used for whatever you want. It's a magnifier of energy there. It magnifies, it amplifies. So if you go there with an intention to heal or to, with some sort of a goal for yourself, a personal goal for yourself, even, you can accomplish it there more easily, it feels like. Just amplifies everything. So it's a really magical place.
What type of inner earth beings are you seeing there?
They kind of, I feel they're like Lemurian and potentially Atlantean descendants. So a lot of them appear to me as they look very humanoid, just a bit taller. So maybe like 7 feet tall would be the average, more fair skin, and then long light hair. And I often see them wearing like white clothes. And they just feel very, very positive, very, very in tune with nature, with everything, with energy work, with healing modalities, just very intelligent, benevolent beings. But what I'm coming to find, so I'm exploring there. I've only lived there for about a month and a half. There's a lot of entrances that go down to the inner earth there. So, and I've also seen visions and had kind of experiences at some of these sites, seeing the past, if you will, where these inner earth beings would come up and they would give the Native Americans information and wisdom through some of these portal systems, which seem to be very active in the Sedona area.
Have you been to any of the other places like Mount Shasta or the Grand Tetons?
Yeah, so Mount Shasta is one of my other favorite places. I was actually debating whether I should move to Sedona or Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta is incredibly magical. And so that's in Northern California. The veil is very, very thin there as well. And it's known for having the inner earth city Telos underneath. And inner earth portal entrances there too. There's a man, Lowell Johnson. You might actually really like having him as a guest. I've interviewed him a few times, but he was actually invited into inner earth through a portal on Mount Shasta. And I went to this portal space, and I actually have some pictures of, I took my retreat group there last summer. We didn't get in. It's hard to get in with 20 people, I found out. But we got some really incredible photos of anomalies, rainbow light beings kind of surrounding us and things like that, and different light anomalies. I took dowsing rods there, and they were spinning like crazy, almost out of my hands, which they do that at high energy points. But yeah, Lowell Johnson was actually invited into Inner Earth, and he got to see how they lived there and everything. And a lot of people have experiences with ascended masters there. Saint Germain has been seen in the flesh there on multiple occasions, and elementals, things like that, as well as ships. I saw ships going in and out of the mountain. So they also hold galactic meetings there. And I remember after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump last summer, I was there. I was in California. I had just gotten there right whenever that happened. The next day, I went up to Mount Shasta, and I saw like ships going into the mountain, and it was crazy. I've seen a lot of UFOs, but even there, I was like, wow, it lasted for hours. So I tapped in and sort of remote viewed what's going on. And I saw different galactic beings from all over the galaxy meeting, like, almost like a little like conference or like a big galactic meeting. And I asked, what are you guys doing? And they said that they were assessing the consciousness of the planet, given the recent events and what had happened, to see kind of what trajectory it was putting us on. So I thought that was really interesting that there were really big meetings taking place there. The next morning, they said that we were on a on a positive timeline, and that event had woken up enough people that we were on a positive trajectory and things were going to be okay. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Do you have any new photos or videos to show us since the last time you were here in 2021?
Yeah, I've got a few things I can show you from Mount Shasta as well as Sedona, a couple things that I've caught in Sedona.
Cool.
Okay, so this is from last summer in Mount Shasta. We got a ship that flew over my retreat group.
We'll go get them. Okay, how do you know it's that? I didn't know. Yeah, that's bonus. Thank you. Power up one. Yeah, there it goes. Power up. Did it power up already, Lily? Look at that. You got it for a second? Yeah, but I don't think. How come it's not working?
Could you hear the audio too?
Yeah, that was great. And I guess to the left, that is the mountain, Mount Shasta.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So there's Mount Shasta, and the footage is a little shaky, but yeah, there would be ships, and sometimes you'd see them actually going into the mountain, which is pretty interesting. They would disappear into the mountain. So they're very, very active there. So that's one clip. Now that wasn't with, my nice camera, so sorry, it's not like the best footage. Okay, so I also wanted to show you guys this inner Earth portal entrance area. So like I said, I brought the dowsing rods up there. The dowsing rods were going crazy. This is the rock formation area where Lowell Johnson, he said a portal opened up and he was able to actually go in to inner Earth. And I took my retreat group there. But I just wanted to show you, we had some beautiful rainbow energies that appeared on the picture. So
It's interesting how you can see a horizontal line of clarity below the rainbow area. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
If there's a skeptic out there, and since you're a photographer, is there any way this could be some sort of artifact in the photo?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I take a lot of photos. I take a lot of pictures. I've spent countless hours doing that. And what I found is the camera captures more than what our eyes can see. So you wouldn't have seen this with our normal eyes. But the light, we're all made of light. Science will tell you this. And that light is encoded with information. So you'll get these very unique, interesting anomalies that communicate through different colors and light at these different locations. Like you could try and take a picture like this. You'll often catch like lens flares and stuff like that, which a lot of people think are orbs. So you have to be very careful about that. But I've taken pictures in so many other locations. You never get anything like this, to reproduce this. Mm-hmm. This is at very special locations, very high energy locations. You'll see this, these rainbow things. I've caught photos like this in Mount Shasta, in Sedona, and in Egypt. And I take a lot of photos. So that's where I've been able to get it. And you kind of see what almost looks like a Mother Mary type figure right here, which I thought was interesting. That was kind of...
Is that within the rock, or is that still just a lighting and shadow thing?
I think it's a lighting and shadow thing. I've got other pictures of it. I don't have them in this specific folder, but I don't think it was the rock. Yeah, see, so the rock kind of, you can see the lines from the rock going on here, but there's kind of like this overlay. Hopefully you can see it.
Did you have any feeling being in that space?
Yeah, it felt magical. You feel surrounded by love. It just feels very, very high vibrational. Sometimes your ears will ring, or you'll feel like a change in pressure. But it's a very blissful, loving feeling. A lot of people even get very emotional. So I remember my group got very emotional. This was right after we did a group meditation. and everybody was just feeling fantastic and in a very peaceful, high vibrational state is when you can, tap into this more. So the morning of my retreat, we woke up to some pretty incredible looking cloud formations over the mountain. Now, some people could say these are just clouds or they're lenticular clouds, but these ships often they cloak themselves within clouds, or they create some sort of like a condensation around them. So just keep an eye out for it. I'm not telling you to believe me 100%, but just like kind of feel into it and keep an eye out for that. Sometimes you'll see a very odd looking uh, cloud, and it's actually a cloaked ship. So these were here on the mountain all day. I was in Mount Shasta for nearly a month at this time. And it was just this one day, the morning of my retreat, where all of these crazy, huge cloud formations and what appeared to be cloaked ships. So here's another example of a cloaked ship, or what I feel is a cloaked ship, over the mountain. And this was first thing in the morning. The last picture I just showed you was throughout the day. But yeah, you'll often see these huge cloaked ships kind of parked around these vortex spots, these very, very high energy spots. So really fascinating. And there is some technology. I've seen kind of patents for this, or some information where in Germany they discussed using condensation or clouds to kind of cloak ships, aircraft around it. So this is like a thing. You can do some research on it. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Well, if it is a cloak ship, it is huge, and it would probably be a mothership.
Yeah. So we saw like these huge motherships, and then you could see kind of these other smaller scout ships stationed around it. And again, they were there all day. They didn't move much. So it was just really interesting, and it felt very, very busy, very, very active. And some of these photos actually they went really viral. Somebody else had nabbed them from my Facebook page and posted them on some other group page, and thousands and thousands and thousands of hits on it. So it was a very impressive. Even people who went to Mount Shasta a lot or were kind of used to it, they were like, "This is abnormal," the way the clouds and those kind of ships were. Okay, now I'm gonna go into Sedona. This was during a Sedona retreat of mine back in October 2024. This is Bell Rock, where we are. Bell Rock is known as one of the major energy vortexes, a very, very potent site. A lot of people go there for spiritual experiences or spiritual healing. So I took my group there and we did a little meditation, and I was able to capture this orb that you'll see flies over my group, circles over my group, and then kind of flows out. So you'll see it at normal speed, and then you'll see it, it'll replay and go slower. And I think entire ships could be in these orbs, and they're just projecting themselves somehow into our reality, but they can do it smaller. Because I've seen what looks like a whole person in an orb that small. So in what seems to be a whole group of beings in a smaller orb. This was a pretty good size orb, so I'll go ahead and play it.
Now, earlier you mentioned that orbs can be mistaken for lens flares. Is it possible that that's what's going on here, or that's a bug or something?
Yeah, no, because the camera was stationary on a tripod. And with lens flares, see, it came in down here and then it moved and then went out. Whenever you catch a lens flare like that, it's because you're moving the camera compared to the sun. So this was stationary, so it could not be a lens flare. Yeah. And there's kind of it looks like multiple spheres and one. It's really an interesting shape.
And I don't think it looks like a bug.
Yeah, no.
So
I
would
feel like it was a group of council members. I know that might sound weird, but that was just the feeling I got. It was like a ship or just like a spiritual group even of like council members that were kind of checking us out and joining in on the meditation from a higher dimensional space. Might sound kind of weird, but we live in a very interesting, multi-layered, multi-dimensional reality.
well, it's not weird for my audience.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a clip of a ship that was just taken last month, back in April 2025. I was at a place called Bradshaw Ranch, which is a very big paranormal hotspot in Sedona or near Sedona. There's documentaries about it and things like that. We got a ship that flew over us, and this was taken with my cell phone, so there was a huge haze over this ship, one that like I'd never seen before. The camera doesn't pick it up as good, but you can see it's like a very hazy, large ship. And he just disappeared. There's a big haze around it.
Is it one ship that's 3 lights of a triangle or 3 separate ships? Because I'm seeing 3 lights.
So the other ones are stars. Yeah, those other ones, the other lights that you see are stars. And then you just got,
Okay.
yeah, so there's yeah, those are stars. And you can see this is pretty bright. The camera couldn't pick it up as good because it was so dark, but it's pretty bright and hazy. There was like this huge haze. I wish the camera could have picked it up better, but I've never seen anything like it. A huge haze just surrounding this ship. But yeah, those are stars. And then there's the kind of haze.
I guess you're moving the camera because it seems like the other stars are moving.
Yeah, I move it a little bit. I'm holding it by hand. This is a depiction that I created of my Andromedan contact. And a lot of people, her name's Talia, and I write about her extensively in my book. A lot of people have experiences or feel triggered by these images because they've seen these beings before, or they feel familiar. So I just wanted to show it just in case anybody resonates with it. So she's an Andromedan council member.
Do you feel that this rendition is pretty accurate?
I feel it's pretty accurate, yeah. Yeah. She looks very much human-like, except she has light blue skin and no hair. Besides that, she looks very human.
And it looks like she has the Star Trek emblem.
Yeah, the AI actually put that in there, and I was like, that's fitting. So it basically is, it's like Star Trek out there. We're just as humanity becomes ready and our consciousness raises, we will be able to become a spacefaring species and join this kind of galactic community. We're the new kids on the block.
Are you religious at all? And if so, do you think that there's anything within the Bible that kind of correlates to what's going on now?
So I did not grow up religious at all. My family was never religious. I've never read the Bible, but here, especially in the last year, I have actually been getting messages that parallel Bible and biblical prophecies, which I found very, very fascinating. So I'm looking at it through like an unbiased lens. And some of the beings that I see, including beings known as the seraphim, are depicted in the Bible. They're often depicted as like a big eye with 6 wings. I see those beings, and I've been seeing them for a while now, as well as the galactics. So it's all connected. What I'm finding is it very much is, it's all connected. It's not just one thing. It doesn't have to be ET or science or religion. Like it's more of a spiritual thing, and it's all connected. And the great deluge that it talks about, the destruction of certain cities like Sodom and Gomorrah. I received messages in Egypt about Sodom and Gomorrah. I had to look up what it was, but it's about the apparently in the Bible, God was angry, or these gods were angry and destroyed some of these cities. And the messages that I got about it, I saw kind of like a nuclear war and explosions from a long time ago that destroyed. They called it Sodom and Gomorrah. I think it happened multiple locations all over the planet, actually, and kind of reset civilization. Potentially the Anunnaki involved with that. I'm finding that that has been coming up more for me in my messaging, and I didn't really study that. I've never done any outside research on it, but I believe that definitely parallels the Bible. And there's also this prophecy of the great unveiling, revelations, the awakening of the planet, and that's talked about in the Bible I hear. And I believe that's what we're going through right now. A big exposure, and then the return of Christ, but through us, not as an outside figure who will be returning, but the return of Christ consciousness and what's known as the Christos template, or divine Christ consciousness template, is returning and being activated and remembered within each of us, and also finding heaven within. It's more of a state of being. So in that way, that's what I'm finding the connection is, and it's very much connected. I think it's just been kind of tweaked and corrupted a bit, but there's a lot of symbology in it, and a lot of kind of truth that just needs to be remembered or unveiled.
Besides all of this, and that this is the year of the unveiling, what else have you seen coming in the near future?
Yeah, so recently the buzz has kind of been, there's been some interesting kind of stuff going on with the Pope situation. I believe the passing of that Pope, and I've been seeing some of this through, I've been receiving some messages about this. Um, the passing of the old Pope and then this new Pope that we have, it feels like a big marker where one chapter has ended and a new chapter is beginning. And some of the messaging I'm getting is that this new Pope will actually play a positive role in helping bring some disclosure and helping bridge the gap, and lessening the old control systems that have been ruling the planet. So that's something that I'm seeing that's very, very timely and new right now. We've got a lot of things unfolding in the political arena, and it's kind of like a big show that's happening, I think, to teach people what's really going on, and have people show their true colors and kind of just lay everything out onto the table, unveiling everything, exposing corruption, and tearing down these old systems so that we can build new systems for the new 5D Earth. That will be a healthy, abundant, positive, peaceful planet, I believe, is what we're going into. But we're in the middle of the mud. We're in the middle of not the mud necessarily, but we're in the middle of it right now. Kind of just everything's getting really shaken up. So it's really interesting times, but I feel incredibly blessed that we're here for it, and we're helping, people like you and me and your audience. We're out to learn the truth and discover the truth and just connect the dots. And it's a fun game we're playing here.
Well, you have a book called Contact. What is it about, and what's the main takeaway someone should get from reading it?
Yeah, so here's I've got my book right here, Contact, an incredible true story of contact with beings from another world and spiritual awakening. So it goes through my initial contact experiences. It really deep dives into my contact with Talia, the light blue Andromedan being, and the messages that I received from these beings. Also, it's a guide, it's a manual on how to develop different skills like telepathy, psychic abilities, how to make contact, communicate with could be your guides, it could be angels, could be galactics, because it's very similar principles on raising your frequency. And yeah, so it's kind of a training manual. I went through what I call Starseed Boot Camp, where they taught me a lot of different spiritual things and just personal development things in a rapid, short time and space. And I go through it as a complete guide to help others to develop those sorts of gifts and abilities, discernment, and all of that fun stuff. So, and I also have a lot of footage in my book as well. It can help people connect dots for them too, whether they've had experiences like this or they want to have profound spiritual or galactic experiences. It can really help be a bridge to help people achieve that.
Well, what is the easiest way for a person to see a UFO?
Setting your intention is incredibly important, and you have to have good intentions though. You can't just want to see it just because you're like, oh, I want to see it nonchalant, as like it'll be something fun or entertaining, because they can sense that. You want to, if you're pure with your intention and your heart, I would love to see a ship or my star family. I would love to see some sort of a sign so that I can learn more about myself and just learn more about what's going on. You feel the difference in intention there. They can feel that. So having a good intention and asking for them to show up, and then just spending time either out sky watching. You could spend 10 minutes per day or per night and see what happens. And then raising your frequency, because they're higher vibrational beings, and they come whenever you're in like a positive state. If you're angry or stressed, they may not always come. But if you get into kind of a loving state and you connect with nature, you connect with the sky, you connect with your heart, they'll show up. They'll show you something. You may have a feeling, or you may actually see a ship, or a sign. Sometimes they'll communicate through signs in the clouds. They used to make like eyes or hearts in the clouds for me. Just have fun with it and see what happens.
Well, you recently spoke at the Rebels of Disclosure conference. Do you have anything else coming up soon?
Yeah, I'm doing an event in Chaco Canyon, which is an ancient sacred site in New Mexico. I know Laura Eisenhower is going to be there. Brad Olson's going to be there. So that's an event I'm speaking at with Quantum Disclosure Project. It's a fun kind of off-grid camping type deal in June. And then I'm hosting a Sedona spiritual transformation retreat and vortex tour in October. So I do like these small group tours in Sedona and Mount Shasta. So yeah, that's my next one coming up. I'm actually about to put the website up. By the time this airs, I'll probably have the website up if people are interested in attending that. It's a very small group. I usually have about 15 people, so it can be more intimate and guide them through all of these different vortexes and sacred hotspots. And we do meditations and things like sky watches and things like that. So it's a fun time.
Do you have a website for people to contact you or find out more about what you're up to?
Yeah, my website is lilynovacontact.com. So you can find, any upcoming events, information on there. I also have different workshops and activations and things, as well as my book is on my website. And then I also do Patreon. So I do bi-weekly meetings, group meetings, and Zoom calls and things like that, kind of special access type things if you're interested in that. But yeah, you can find everything on my website at lilynovacontact.com. And then my book's also on Amazon, Contact by Lily Nova.
Lily, before we finish up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
Yeah, of course. I just want to say I'm super proud of all of the truth seekers who are listening right now and who are on their own journeys. It's such a beautiful thing. We always want to know everything right here and now, but sometimes you have to take a step back and appreciate the steps where the universe is kind of guiding you. Maybe this interview pops up and you get this piece to the puzzle or something else, or you meet this person, or you see this, or you do this meditation. And it's just a really beautiful journey. So, but it's not always easy. I think we have, I know we have really beautiful moments coming ahead. There's a bit of a storm coming as well, though, that's going to shake things up a bit, but just stay heart-centered and enjoy the show. Would be my last words. And live from the heart.
Lily, thank you for your message, and thank you for coming back and being my guest again.
Thank you, Jeff. It was an honor and a pleasure speaking with you again.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.